Hi everyone, sorry I haven't been posting for a while. I've been taking some time out just to think about what I want to post. Is it relevant? Is it needed? There's so many people out there right now talking about recovery, getting sober, how they're living their lives. And a lot of it seems to be aimed around at the beginning, which is something that I can't share in life terms, because in real life experience I'm 20 years down the line, so I've only got I've got the recovery experience of life being sober since the age of 24, but I won't be able to give you like a life story about how it happened. Thankfully for me, there was no way of putting that on social media before I got sober, and I'm kind of glad about that, if I'm honest. I don't mind recalling the past to help me change the future, but I certainly don't want any videos or photos of me doing it. That's personal choice, but I'm okay with that. So yeah, what I want to talk about really is the beginning, in a sense of how it felt for me. I can only really give you my experience. I can only really tell you what happened, and life is so wonderful and mysterious at times, because just before I was deciding whether to come and do this or not, I literally heard from a few old school friends that kind of, told me straight that this is really helpful and people are getting a lot from this, and it's really good to share openly about this, which gave me the courage. So I just want to give a big shout out to them, and they know I've seen the last week or so. They would have been the ones that probably see me not at my worst, but definitely at the beginning. So let's give you some context. What was it like? For me, I grew up with being, the attitude of being totally against drinking drugs. I was told by my parents, I was warned about the dangers. So I generally thought that would never happen to me. And, if I look back now at things like behaviours, my mind was very obsessive. I used to obsess over the same songs. I used to replay them over and over again. I used to eat the same foods. I'd get really obsessed with one meal or one thing that I really liked, and I would just want to eat it all the time. I remember it just being like cheese and beans on toast, and I think I ate every day for like 2 weeks. If I had an event, if something was coming up that would really make me feel good about myself, I generally would get obsessed about it. And so I've always had that obsessive behaviour. That was there long before any addiction or alcoholism kicked in. And with hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, I can also see my behaviour and how my approach to things in life wasn't always negative. It was just always tarnished with fear and wanting to be liked all the time, and desperate to follow certain people and follow certain groups, wanting to fit in, and all those traits are generalized. They can fit in a lot of places within people's experiences, but for me they really overtook my life and my thinking. And if I'm honest, I think the biggest addiction I ever had was my thinking. I think the irony in that comment, it's just, I spent so much time daydreaming and wanting to understand about why people done the things they did, and if an event would happen or if there was conflict, I would spend hours trying to figure out why and what. And so what I'm trying to say is my thinking process and my behaviour was always not really a good place before that, but I got through life. I worked hard. I got through school barely, And if I could turn back time, I would love to have focused more on my education. But the truth is that I was too caught up in socialising with friends, in life, and there was stuff going on for me within the family dynamic that overtook everything. I couldn't focus on anything else other than that. So for me, that education wasn't a priority, and I found out later that I wasn't silly, I wasn't stupid. It just meant that because I hadn't really given it my time and dedication, I wasn't able to really take it in. And I did retrain later on, and I did go back and resit my maths, unbelievably, which was really hard for me because I really hate maths, but we can't have it all. But the most important thing to let people know is that the downhill spiral for me was quick, in a sense that I started off at 17 you know, just going out of my mates one night, going into a toilet cubicle, swearing I'd never do it, and then when I was presented with the option to do it or not, I took it and I done it. And what I got from it was this feeling of confidence that I never thought was possible. It stopped me worrying about what people thought of me. I was able to just still be myself, because I was always confident and outspoken, and you know, I like dancing, I like chatting, but this was like an acceleration of removing that kind of little voice in the back that just irritated me all the time and got in the way. That constant voice that tells you, you know, you're not good enough, what they said, you said something wrong, what you done now. Yeah, and before I knew it, it was every weekend, and then it went to every week, you know, and then the next thing I know, I'm in my bedroom and I'm on my own, and that's how my day consisted of, you know, coming to, taking all these concoctions, you know, and that was never the plan, that was never my intention. It was just what happened, you know, and I was as baffled as anyone else. And I had lots of people around me trying to intervene, good friends, really good friends that were sitting me down, trying to tell me the reality, you know, trying to get me to see how dangerous it was becoming. I had family members try, but I wasn't listening, you know. But by the end, it was a physical reaction of withdrawal, really, but really feeling like it was too painful. It felt too painful to come out of the cycle. And every time I went back into the cycle again, more, like, you know, more destruction, more embarrassment, that when I came to and I was kind of sober, well, I'd say sober, it was, you know, I didn't have anything in my system at that point. I was just, the recall of knowing what I'd done was so much more worse that I had to just go and take more again. And that cycle just repeated itself. And I had intervention from professionals, you know, and I was lucky enough to be given the option to go to rehab, which I'm eternally grateful for now, you know. And it was hard and it was confusing, and I didn't understand why we had to talk about feelings, or, you know, why I felt that I wasn't that bad. I was really confused, because I was like, where's all my friends? Where's everyone else that I've been doing this with? Why aren't they in here with me? You know, they should be in here. And so much more focused on everything else and everyone else, except really willing enough to look at myself and ask myself the question, was I in trouble? And it took me a while to come to that conclusion with professional help. You know, I didn't do it by myself. Yeah. And hey ho, they introduced me to support groups, which I'm really, really grateful for. Because for me, having other people that understood the process, the thought patterns, the behaviours, the embarrassment, the experience, you know, to be able to sit opposite someone and be able to say that I done that, or that happened to me, really helped. You know, and it wasn't to say that friends and family couldn't help me. They just wasn't able to identify and relate to the experiences I had. And when I sat opposite someone else who was a fellow addict or alcoholic, for me, it was easier because I didn't feel judged. And it wasn't that anyone else was judging me. It just, they've been where I've been. They understand what it's like, you know. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I've been surrounding myself with those people and passing on what I've got. So, you know, for me, there'll be no coaching plan. There'll be no subscription on my file. There's going to be no buy me a coffee. I'm going to do on here what I was given to begin with, which was information for free, because it's the right thing to do. And hopefully, if I share my experiences and I give you a little bit of indication about how I live my life and how I apply the fundamentals of the program that I've learned, you know, which I'll be careful about what I share, because there are reasons and traditions around stuff that I need to manage. But, you know, I'm happy to pass on what I've learned, because if one person gets this, if one person watches this and says, oh my God, that's happening to me, then it's worth it. Right? So if you are that person, if you're listening, and I don't expect you to comment, I don't expect you to like anything, because I know sometimes it can feel like if you're liking something or commenting or messaging that you're admitting to something, and that's a big thing at the beginning, you know. If you're listening and you've got that moment of clarity where you're hearing what I'm saying and you're identifying it's touching you, reach out to someone that you trust, reach out to professionals, take that hand of help wherever it comes, because there's only little moments of clarity that pop in now and again, and they're like gold, and they come, and you have to grab them with both hands, because if it goes and slips away, you don't know how much longer you're going to be out there in that chaos and that pain, waiting for that other moment of clarity to come up. So, you know, I'm happy for feedback, happy for people to, you know, always message me and ask me anything. I'll share what I can, remembering that I've got family and children, and, you know, I have to consider that as well. But I'm happy to pass on what I've passed on if you think it's going to help. So if you listen to this, thanks for listening, and I will try and post as much as I can. It will not be daily, but I will post when I'm free to do so. So have a beautiful day, everyone. Look after each other and take care.